Hello everyone, welcome back to the Analyst of Vajiram and Ravi, where we bring to you detailed discussion of important articles from Hindu and Indian Express. Today is 23rd of January, and what are the important articles? Let's have a quick look. In the first article, we will do a detailed analysis of the timeline of Ram Janmabhoomi, its associated history, conflicts, and what is Ram Janmabhoomi movement. Then we will do the editorial analysis featured on the Hindu about the tax contribution of states and why does it need to be revisited. Then we will do the policy analysis of the recently launched PM Suryodaya scheme, which is nothing but a revamp of the erstwhile solar rooftop scheme. And finally, we will wind up the discussion by reading about Foreign Contribution Regulation Act, because recently two very important NGOs and think tanks have been deregistered because of this act. So let's get started. Now, before taking up the discussion, here's a friendly reminder for those of you who strictly want to study the topic which are related to UPSC syllabus. You can take up the discussion from second topic onward. And for those curious minds who wants to explore about the Ram Janmabhoomi's history, timeline and dispute, I welcome you all to the first topic where we'll read about the Ram Mandir's journey across various timelines. Now, why is this in news? The context is very much known to all of us. And why is it important from UPSC point of view? Because in GS paper 1, we deal with the important events related with the modern history. So here we will read about some of the ancient and medieval and modern history context of the Ram Janmabhoomi event. We will read about the different political movements which took therein and some important judicial decisions and commissions associated with the same. So on this note, let's begin the discussion. See, in the first thing, let's understand what is and where is Ram Mandir. So Ram Mandir is located in the city of Ayodhya. The city of Ayodhya was for the first time said to be established by the ancestors of Lord Ram. But it was during the period of Lord Ram that it saw its full glory. It was the golden period, it saw its zenith. And after him, it saw desolation. It went into ruins. Then, according to mythology, the son of Lord Ram, Kush, and according to some of the scriptures, the ruler of Kaushambi, one of the Mahajanpads, we had 16 Mahajanpads, right? So, one among the king of Mahajanpad, Kaushambi, King Kush, he again refurbished and re-established the city of Ayodhya in light of the glory of his father. Then, it was again destroyed by the war of Mahabharat, as we all know, the famous war. And then, it is quoted in some of the ancient texts, for example, Raghuvansham of Kalidas and for example, Bhavishya Puran. It has been quoted that this city was again created and built back by the Ujjaini king Vikramaditya, the king of Ujjaini, one among the Mahajanpads, which is located in current Madhya Pradesh. So Vikramaditya built across 360 temples devoted to Vaishnavism in the city of Ayodhya. In the city of Ayodhya, where it was built across the coast, across the sidelines of your Saryu river. So this is known as the Lakshman Ghat, and across 360 temples were built over it. Now, after that, it got into the hands of Gupta Empire, and for a short period of time, this city, Ayodhya city, was also one among the capitals of Gupta Empire, where it saw huge flourishment. It became a very important trading center as well. And later on in the timeline, it also becomes a very important Buddhist site. And when you refer to Saket, Saket is nothing but the region of Ayodhya, but the word Saket has been used in Buddhist scriptures. So this was not only a very important Hindu pilgrimage site, but also Buddhist trading site and also important trading center. Then what happened? All the temples and the scriptures that were raised by Vikramaditya were then renamed by Jaichand on his name. So eventually the temples were at its glory, but then comes the foreign invasions, and the foreign invaders started destroying different temples and different religious sites of Ayodhya city. This was getting worse and it saw its zenith during Sikandar Lodhi as well. But it was only when the Mughal comes and when the founder of the Mughal Empire, that is Babur, who will finally demolish, because before that the demolishment of any temple was not made. But for the first time, entire demolishment of the temple where Ram Janmabhoomi site was located was done for the first time by the founder of Mughal Emperor Babur, and therefore a masjid that is created in this place is known as Babri Masjid or Babri Mosque. So here we have learned about the different ancient and medieval timeline of Ayodhya. Now fast forward to 1751. Now 1751 is the time when this region or this city of Ayodhya will be ruled by Awadh, the province of Awadh, which is in fact ruled by Nawabs over there. So what happens? Nawabs of Awadh call for the help of Marathas, which are Hindu kingdoms. So they will call for the help of Maratha, that you help us against the invasions and against the attack of the Afghans and the Pathans. And in return, Maratha made a demand, made the first ever appeal to give to them, transfer to them the control of three very important religious sites for the Hindu. First, the Banaras or Kashi's Vishwanath temple. Second, Ayodhya because of the Ram Janmabhoomi, and Mathura because of Krishna Janmabhoomi. So the first appeal to take the control by Hindu rulers were made by the Marathas. Then what happens? This Ram Mandir dispute in the modern India starts from the year 1882, because what happens, a court official in the district of Faizabad, now it is located in the district of Faizabad. So there a district official will come, Hafizullah, will make a submission regarding the report which says that Babri Masjid is located in proximity to Sita Rasoi. Now how is this possible that two different religion structures are located at very proximity to each other? So this fueled the suspicion that probably Babri Masjid is built over the demolished Ram Mandir, and from here on the dispute will escalate. So the first ever communal clash regarding the identity of Babri Masjid or Ram Mandir or Ram Janmabhoomi began in 1885 in the month of July, where a bloody conflict happened between Hindus and Muslims for the first time in the Hanuman Gadi, which is closely located near this sanctum, or this Babri Masjid, or this location which was disputed, bringing on heavy casualty. Now as you know that this is the era where India is being ruled by Britishers. So now the Britishers will intervene, and what they will do, they will say that Muslims are allowed worship in the Babri Masjid sanctum and Hindus are allowed worship in the Ram Chabutra, which is located in the same infrastructure within the same settlement. So Hindus will be worshipping over here and Muslims will be worshipping over there. And in order to avoid any conflict between them, they made a barricade of fences. This was done by the British government, and at the same time they did a strong fencing for it. Now the Hindus will come and demand that it's good that we are allowed to worship in the Ram Chabutra, but why not create a temple over it? So a legal case for the first time regarding this demand was made in 1885 by Mahant Raghubir Das, seeking the permission of the Faizabad Civil Code to build a Ram temple over the Ram Chabutra. And this was again dismissed by the court because it could have severe law and order implications, because it could also lead into culmination of riots in the place. So therefore, they were not allowed to build a temple over there. Now comes the era of rising tension and political activism. The dispute between who does this Ram Janmabhoomi belongs to was there in the following decades, and the status quo was maintained till 1949. So what happened in December 1949? A dramatic turn took place. Here, it was surprisingly found that in the main dome of the Babri Masjid, idol of Ram Lalla was found overnight. So this happened in December 1949. This again sparked the controversy between Hindus and Muslims. Hindus said that this is a kind of incarnation by the Lord Ram. He wants his temple to be built over there. Some said that this was made by, or this was the image, the idol was placed by a group of people. While the Muslims said, especially led by Waqf Board, they said that this property belongs to us, because Waqf Board took this property under Sunni Waqf Board in 1944. So they said that this property belongs to us and the idol should be immediately removed. So then comes government intervention, which was then ruled by Nehru. So Jawaharlal Nehru immediately directed the removal of the idol, but the local administration did not comply to the order, fearing that this can trigger communal violence. This can trigger a lot of conflicts and riots in the place. So therefore, finally, the mosque sanctum was completely seized and locked then and there. And from then, the very infamous dispute of the 2.6 acre land of the Ram Janmabhoomi started. Now, it also saw one among the first political involvement. So the Hindu Mahasabha, which was working in the UP, so in 1947, they took up the resolution for the liberation of the Ram Janmabhoomi and the other sites. Which are the other sites? The Kashi Vishwanath temple and the Mathura's Krishna Janmabhoomi. So then it again, the next decade of 1950s saw multiple round of litigants. The citizens went to the court saying that we are being forbid of our right to worship in the place. Nirmohi Akhada said that they also have claims in the Ram Janmabhoomi, and Muslim Waqf Board said that they want to be reinstated their rights on the Babri Masjid and the land associated with it. So now what happens? In a very surprising move, the civil judge of Faizabad court, he will restrain the orders, or he will restrain the order to remove the Ram Lala's idol from the Babri Masjid, and therefore he reinstated the status quo, which means that again this temple, this the mosque will be finally seized and locked. Now comes the era of Hindutva politics. This will be seen with the rise of parties like Vishwa Hindu Parishad, like RSS, like BJP. So in the year 1984, the Vishwa Hindu Parishad will be formed, and it will announce the movement for the liberation of 3 cities, Ayodhya, Mathura and Varanasi. And finally, they will lead Ram Janki Yatra from Bihar Sitamarhi to Ayodhya. So finally, it gained a political impetus. Now, how it led to escalating disputes and demolitions. So what happened in the year of 1986, another very surprising turn comes when the court, the Faizabad district court, will order that Babri Masjid will be opened for the Hindus and they can finally come inside the mosque and worship Ram Lala. So this was made by the district judge K.M. Pandey, and this was again legally challenged by the Muslim parties in the Allahabad High Court. So now this case is going to move from district to state level, that is to Allahabad High Court. When the Hindus were given the right, they were very happy and they led the Shilanyas, or the stone foundation of the Ram Mandir inside the sanctum of Babri Mosque. This happened in 1989, and actually this was supported by the then Rajiv Gandhi government. So Rajiv Gandhi government gave the order to finally perform the Shilanyas ceremony, because of which the communal tensions escalated drastically in this region, killing up to 800 people over there. Then again, a politics led by Hinduism saw Rath Yatra and riots associated side by side. So in the decade of 1990s, you will see that the coalition government will be formed, and which will be presided by VP Singh. So this coalition government, because to commemorate the victory of the coalition government over the Congress government, Lal Krishna Advani or the other stalwarts of BJP took up the Rath Yatra for the liberation of the Ram Janmabhoomi, or for the liberation of the sanctum. Now what happens? Already in 1990s, when the VP Singh started the Mandal Commission or took up the recommendations of the Mandal Commission, they were divided between the coalition government. One supported the Mandal Commission and others said that we should go into Kamandal politics of Hindutva. So here you will see the coalition of Vishwa Hindu Parishad, RSS and BJP coming together to form a rally for the liberation of Ram Mandir. For that, they created a volunteer who were called Kar Sevaks or Kar Sevaks, because they were the volunteers who were contributing for religious purposes. So finally in 1990, Kar Sevaks attacked Ayodhya, leading to heavy casualties. There was a huge fight between the police and the state administration of that part, and also of the Kar Sevaks. And finally, the Kar Sevaks raised a flag over the Babri Masjid, and this finally led to the demolition of Babri Masjid in the year 1992. Now, when the final demolition has taken place, now will start a parliamentary interference. Parliament interfered for the first time by taking up this very disputed land under its control by passing the Acquisition Act in 1993. So, the 2.6 acre land, the disputed land of Ayodhya, was now given in the hands of Parliament or central government. And now it also asked for the Supreme Court's advice and opinion regarding what should we do with the temple. what is the history of this particular disputed land. So for this, the Supreme Court will now be establishing the Librand Commission. This is very important. This might get asked in the state PCS examination or also in the prelims exam. So Librand Commission started investigating the Babri Masjid demolition. It was in fact one of the longest inquiry committee ever found, and it submitted its report in 2009, which said that whatever happened during the clash of Babri Masjid Mosque was rather planned. It was not non-spontaneous. So therefore, it led criminal charges against Lal Krishna Advani, Manohar Joshi, and also against Uma Bharti. They were again removed from the conviction, and finally it went to Allahabad High Court. So Allahabad High Court, when it got the recommendations of the Librand Commission and the Archaeological Survey of India, finally said that we will be dividing the property rights in 2:1 proportion, where 2 parts of the disputed land will be given to Hindus and 1 part will be given to Muslims. This was put by litigants of both Hindus and Muslims, both individually demanding the complete acquisition of the land. So finally it went to Supreme Court, and Supreme Court in its judgment 2009 will say that the entire disputed land will now be given to the hands of Hindu petitioner. Therefore, Hindus won the case of Ram Janmabhoomi and right over it. And finally, we are now seeing the Shilanyas and inauguration. The Shilanyas was done for the first time by Prime Minister Modi in August 2020. And finally, the Grand Temple was inaugurated yesterday. So this was all about Ram Mandir Journey. You must also know the entire architecture and what happened. So here you will see that the Sita Ki Rasoi, this is located over here. This was found for the first time in its report, in a report submitted to the district court in 1882. This is located within the infrastructure of Babri Masjid. You can also see Ram Chabutra over there. You can also see Hanuman Dwar, and you can see Bhandar. So how the division took place, that the Ram Lala will get the place under the central dome according to Supreme Court, and Sita Ki Rasoi and Bhandar will be given to Nirmohi Akhada, and finally the remaining property rights will be given to Waqf Board. This was made by Supreme Court earlier. So this was all about the Ram Mandir Journey. Now coming to the second topic of discussion, this is about the tax contribution of states in the centre's revenue pool, and why it needs to be revisited as suggested by the 2 editors. One is an economy professor and the other is a member of State Planning Commission. Now this is important from GS3 point of view, where we read about Indian economy and mobilization of resources. So first of all, who determines the tax contribution that has to be made by individual states in the union revenue pool? Because see, every state has got the responsibility of providing its individual tax share, but who will decide? The deciding body is a constitutional body, which is ingrained in Part 5th of the Constitution, Article 280. This is the Finance Commission of India. So Finance Commission distributes and devolves the amount of revenue share that will be divided between centre and states, and the duties and responsibilities of multiple states. So it is decided by, first of all, Finance Commission. What is this distribution formula based on? On which basis the revenue will be distributed among multiple states? So broadly, there are 2 formulas, 2 equations taken for it. One is equity and second is efficiency. So you have to make sure that the revenue scarce states, for example the northeastern states, or for example the environmentally challenged states like Himachal, they are getting more equity, more resources as compared to other states. And the second formula would be to take care of the efficiency. If some state is performing really good on the set parameters, then that state has to be awarded more duly. So on the basis of these 2 parameters, distribution formula is finally created. This distribution formula and the associated parameters keeps changing from one finance commission to another. But if you talk about the recent 15th Finance Commission, it saw 6 parameters to be included for or in its revenue sharing formula. So it took into consideration tax effort, demographic performance, income distance, forest and ecology, area and population, with variable contribution of individually. Now if you compare it with 14th Finance Commission, in the 14th Finance Commission, it had only 4 parameters. And in these parameters, the two which are missing is, first of all, the tax effort. Tax effort parameter has not been included in 14th one, and also the demographic performance. These two are missing in this 14th Finance Commission. So you can see that these parameters are variable. Their percentage is also variable. Now coming back to the tax effort parameter, which is the topic of our discussion. This shows how much tax a state is contributing towards center's revenue pool. Now, of course, it has varying weights in the revenue sharing formula. As you can see that from 1st to 8th Finance Commission, it has minimal weight, less than 1%. And in the 10th Finance Commission, the parameter was completely dropped till the 14th Finance Commission. And finally, in the 15th Finance Commission, it was reintroduced. And according to the editors, this needs to be revisited and this proportion 2.5 needs to be enlarged as well. So what is the argument for this? The argument that he gives is, first of all, the higher contributor states, the states which are contributing higher in the center's revenue pool by contributing more amount of tax, should definitely be getting higher tax share when the Finance Commission divides the revenue pool. Which means, for example, in India, this is center, and for example, Karnataka is giving it a tax of up to 100 crore rupees in a year. And for example, a state like say Assam is able to contribute only 10 crores. Then who do you think should be better rewarded by the center? Definitely Karnataka. And this is why the share of Karnataka or the share of tax effort should also be enlarged, because definitely Karnataka will feel that I am more worthy of higher contribution. That is the first argument. The second argument is that tax contribution is a very good indicator of how a state is performing or how the economic parameters of state are working, which can be judged by two things. First of all, the GST. And second, the petroleum consumption of the state. If petroleum consumption of a state is high, it also indicates that the per capita income of the state is also high, which means that state has largely developed. More people are owning vehicles, more people are using petrols. That is the first indicator of development of a state. So a more developed state should definitely be given more share in the center's tax pool or center's revenue pool. Second is the performance in GST, which leads to collection of the indirect taxes. Now, GST offers unique opportunity to first of all accurately measure the state contribution by accurately measuring the amount of indirect taxes. How does it do so? First of all, it is a destination-based, consumption-based tax. So, you will also be able to reflect how many people are giving the taxes. So it will be more reflective of the tax base, that how many people are giving it. And second, it also provides a stability in the tax structure, which would otherwise be very volatile due to the changing tax policies of individual state government. Here the structure is very well set. You can even give 0% or you can give 12%, you can give 18%, so on and so forth. So there are fixed slabs. So this is also providing a stability to tax structure. So GST is a very good parameter, and now that you have introduced GST, therefore now this parameter of tax contribution can be efficiently taken into regard in order to decide a state's share in the center revenue pool. Now this we have already read, and this editorial suggests that the appropriate weightage should be raised to up to 33%. So this is the recommendation taking up from this editorial. Now coming to the third topic, this is about a recently launched scheme. This is Pradhan Mantri Suryodaya Yojana. As the name suggests, this is talking about increasing the solar efficiency or the renewable energy that we are creating from solar sources. So what is the context? That the government has launched the scheme to electrify 1 crore households with the solar electricity. What first of all is the need of the scheme? The need of the scheme is the lacunas, the challenges and the failure of the previous scheme that was operational. So the previous scheme was Rooftop Solar Program of 2014, launched by the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. So here, this which was launched in 2014 set a very minor target of achieving 40 gigawatt of installed capacity, solar installed capacity by the year 2022. Is it successful? Not at all, not even minorly successful. Because if you take up the stats of December 2023, you will see that the total installed capacity that is coming from rooftop is just 11 gigawatt. This is not even half of what we have achieved or what we have targeted. So how it wanted to achieve this cumulative install capacity? By focusing on enhancing rooftop solar install capacity. We know that there are multiple solar power plants, commercial power plants, agri power plants, but what we lack is interventions of this solar energy at household level. In order to promote that, in order to facilitate and incentivize, this scheme was launched. And it wanted to target the residential sector by providing center financial assistance and incentives to whom? Not to the residents but to the DISCOMs, for laying the infrastructure, for providing the technical verification, and also for building up net meters in individual households or residential households. So this was the target, this was the procedure to be followed. What was the achievement? Achievement that only 11 gigawatt has been installed till now. And finally, what is the result? That the scheme has been revamped and the timeline has been extended from 2022 to 2026. What were the challenges which limited the performance of the scheme? First of all, lack of awareness among the customers because it was not made popular. Second, high initial cost of installation. Second, varying policies across the state related to DISCOM, as electricity is a state subject, and delays in getting net meters installed. Now, what are net meters and what is net metering? So basically, in order to encourage renewable energy capacity adoption, what government does, it wants to install net meters in households which are connected with the national grid, national electricity grid. Now, when a household raises some solar electricity, creates a solar capacity, it will first of all use it for its own consumption, and whatever surplus is left, that surplus will be given to the national grid. And in lieu of this exported surplus production of solar energy, the household will be getting some monetary benefits as well. So this is the idea of net metering. And because of the challenges and delays in getting the net meter installed, this particular program could not see its due results. Again, second one is the limited solar capacity of India. Let's first also analyze what is the solar capacity, the existing installed cumulative solar capacity of India. So first of all, the installed capacity as per 2023 is only about 73 gigawatt, and that too 11 is generated only from the household or from the rooftop projects. So they are not taken from commercial. The rest is from commercial. Then what is the share of solar power in the energy mix? Well, surprisingly, it is one among the highest contributor. So if you take into regard the large hydro, then the large hydro and the small hydro together will be the highest contributor in the renewable energy mix, and the second highest one is the solar power with up to 9.8% contribution in the total renewable energy mix of India. You can also see that India has an overarching goal of achieving 30% of its electricity, 50% of its electricity needs from renewable energy only. So revamping, reboosting our solar energy capacity would be very instrumental in achieving goals like Panchamrit. What about the individual state performance? So the largest installed solar capacity is shown by Rajasthan, followed by Gujarat, both of them the western states of India, whereas the rooftop installed capacity in this, Gujarat stands first, followed by Maharashtra. Now we will also read about the major power plants in India from prelims point of view, but before that, let's also understand what is the final need to revamp this particular scheme. Need is first of all the rising demand. Now, according to the International Energy Agency, it suggests that India, because of its drastically growing population, would become the largest energy demand market in the next 30 years. So we need to address this demand with rising installed capacity as well. And we have already made a commitment in COP26 with the name of Panchamrit Principle, where we have said that we will be creating about 500 gigawatt worth of renewable energy capacity by 2030. So in order to address these needs, we will be revamping the previous scheme. So what is the scheme? This scheme is first of all a new attempt in the previous scheme in order to get again a target of 40 gigawatt, because that scheme only has been revamped. Nothing else has been changed except for the timeline extended up to 2026. What will it target? It will target the residential consumers. remember, not the commercial ones but the residential consumers, by installing solar power systems. And it will be having twofold target. First of all, to reduce the individual electricity bills of the people of India, and especially of the poor and middle class. So they will be the first beneficiaries who will be targeted. And second, in order to raise overall self-reliance of India in energy sector, so that we do not import or have reliance on the import of fossil fuels. Now coming back to prelims special segment, this is where we are going to talk about multiple solar power plants, because solar energy has been in news ever since the commitment has been made. So first of all, the largest solar plants have been the Shakti Sthal of Karnataka. We have Rewa solar plant of Madhya Pradesh. Then we have got Pavagadh solar park. We have got Simhadri floating solar power plant in Andhra Pradesh. And we have got Bhadla solar park in Rajasthan. So they can be asked in the form of match of the column. So you can refer to this map for this. Now coming to the last topic of the day, here we will read about the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act, because recently two prominent NGOs, the Center of Policy Research and World Vision India's also very prominent think tanks of India, their registrations have been cancelled by the central government, especially by the Ministry of Home Affairs under FCRA Regulation Act. So what is Foreign Contribution and Regulation Act all about? So this act, this legislation deals with the regulation and prohibition on the use of foreign contributions by the individuals or by certain associations or organizations for the activities which can be detrimental for national interest. So for that, execution of the same Foreign Contribution Regulation Act was passed. It was passed for the first time during the first internal emergency that came in India in the year 1975 during Indira Gandhi regime. So it was first enacted during the year 1976 amid the apprehensions that a lot many civil unrest has actually been funded by the foreign contributions that are received by associations, especially NGOs and civil society organizations. Then what are some of the important features that you must note for prelims point of view? You know that some of the associations, for example NGO, an NGO will be giving the approval by the central government who takes care of this FCRA. This is the Ministry of Home Affairs. So Ministry of Home Affairs will be permitting NGOs. It will be permitting the NGOs to get the registration so that they can receive the foreign contribution, and this duration will only be for 5 years, after which they again have to ask for renewal. And in order to demand for renewal, they have to ask it within 6 months of the expiry, otherwise they will deem to be cancelled. So this is the basic regulation of the registration process of NGOs or any association who wants to have foreign contributions. Then a very important amendment was made in the year 2020. What were the main provisions? First of all, previously only associations like NGOs etc. were added, but now public servants are also added into the list of the parties which can be prohibited by the central government. Second, there are mandated documents for both the foreign contributor and the receiver. For the receiver side, it needs to be an Indian citizen who must have Aadhaar for registration and also needs Aadhaar for renewable. In the side of foreign contributor, must have a proper OCI card or should be having legit passport. Then second, the funds that are coming from the foreign contributors can only be deposited in a specially made account. This is the FCRA account, and no other money will be taken into this account so that it can be properly regulated by the government. Second, government also limited the cap of 20%. Only 20% of the money that an association has received will be used to carry out its administrative expenses. And finally, the suspension time. Suspension, first of all, government can suspend on any time on multiple grounds that we'll be looking into the second slide. But suspension by the government can be done in any time along with extension provisions. So the suspension can be extended for up to 180 days further. What are the grounds for the suspension? This is also very important from exam point of view. First of all, if the declaration or a false statement for the registration has been made by the person or by the NGO. Second, if it violated any of the terms and conditions of the registration of the certificate or of its renewal. Next, if it has not been engaged in any reasonable activity that it has promised to do so in order or in lieu of the public services for 2 consecutive years. if this is also reported, then central government again gets the power to deregister or cancel its registration. Then if the organization has become defunct, that is another factor, and if in the opinion of central government it is necessary or it is deemed to be in the public interest to suspend the registration, to cancel the registration of that particular or association, organization, or in fact public servant, then that can also be done. And finally, when an audit is performed and that audit finds irregularities in the finances, then also it can be immediately suspended by the government. What is a remedy? If suppose for a public servant or if for an association this has happened and some temporary suspension or removal of the registration has happened, then you can appeal in the High Court. The appellate body is also present and you can appeal to the High Court. So this was all about today's discussion. Thank you so much and have a nice day.